Avery's week.
You better change it, cause
Yeah.
we're getting it done, getting it better.
Okay, this is good.
That's power.
Turn it on. Okay. Okay. Testing, 1, 2.
Now remember, don't move because that light will cast shadows on you, so once y'all get seated, sit down. Who's doing the interviewing? Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Do you all want to shut that door? Or can we shut the door and block out any? Or you might want to shut that outer door out there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You guys ready? Okay, could you tell us your name and what you do here?
Okay, my name's Avery Stidham, and I'm the counselor here at Jackson City School in grades 7 through 12. I serve as DPP here in the system and also some administrative work, but basically a counselor from 7 through 12.
What is DPP?
Actually, I'm in charge of student attendance in school. It's actually the director of pupil personnel is what it's called. Or it's the old truant officer, if you want to call it that.
Is that a big problem in the school system?
Well, maybe it's a problem with about 5 or 6 families within the school. And if they're absent for so many days, we check up on them, and if they don't attend school on a regular basis, then we give them an opportunity to improve their attendance, or then we turn it over to the courts when it finally gets to a point where it's really truant.
Okay. Tell us about teenage pregnancy in the school systems.
In the school system here in Jackson, we found that in the past few years we've had, of course you have to think in terms of our numbers first. We have approximately 115 students in grades 9 through 12, and we have approximately 100 students in grades 5 through 8. Within the past several years, we've had some teenage pregnancies, but most of our teenage pregnancies have occurred either in upper middle school or the freshman year in high school. And I don't know if it's a surprising statistic or not, but most of our cases have been with around the 8th grade.
What do you think that is?
I don't know. Probably a number of factors could be as such. I think maybe the girls are not aware of a lot of maybe the sex education. They don't quite understand. I think most of our situations have occurred with young girls about in the 8th grade, and their involvement with older people, older men. In fact, just to have a case in point, I think several years ago one of our 8th graders was dating a 30-year-old, and she ended up pregnant. And at this point, she's had to quit school simply because she cannot, she does not have the time to care for a child and to attend school. Another one of our, we had a freshman about 2 years ago. She transferred up here from Breathitt. She was pregnant. She went on homebound, and she stayed on homebound until her baby was born. She ended up having twins, and she returned to school, and she's now in school. We find that there's an agency here in town that's been very important from a standpoint of trying to assist those girls in going to school, and they monitor the days that they're in attendance, and they even pay for child care. So that's helped from a standpoint of after the birth of the child, they can still get back in school and they have an opportunity to finish their education.
Let's change that battery right now. Go ahead and just hit, there should be a little thing. Look on the side and it says.
What do you think of sex education classes in the schools?
What do I think of teaching a sex education class? Okay, I think first of all, it's probably how it's approached, where it fits into the curriculum, and then I think a key to it is communication with parents to let them know what the content of the material is. I think it can be very tastefully done and is a needed part of the school curriculum. Especially it's a prime opportunity to go ahead and implement that in conjunction with maybe health classes that are offered, or even in schools that have child care, home ec classes, in some of those classes. But I think it's a vital part, and I think if more young people, and I'm saying young people, both boys and girls, are educated on sex education, I think that would help tremendously with the teenage pregnancy problem.
Okay. What is the impact on school and community of teenage pregnancy?
Well, I think going back to some of the cases, and I just kind of have to rely upon cases that I'm familiar with here in our school, and to cite an impact that childbirth has had upon specific girls here in our school. I think for one, for example, the little girl that dropped out just a couple of weeks ago, she found that it was just too overwhelming for her to care for a child and to come to school every day. I think another girl that's been in school, I think if it were not for some supportive parents, and especially a supportive mother, to step in and to help care for the children and allow the girl to come back to school, I don't think this would be done. And here's where the agency here in town helps in this situation, in that they provide some child care services, and they even pay for some of the child care while the mother comes back to school. But I think too, even when all these services are provided, I think that young girls are, I think they find themselves kind of thrust from being a young teenager. All of a sudden now they're a parent, and sometimes they just have a hard time fitting in some of the school activities. For example, school prom, dances, a lot of extracurricular activities. And I know oftentimes even up in high school when class trips are planned, I think there are oftentimes a lot of problems just in trying to be free enough to participate in some of the activities, because right now they find themselves, all of a sudden they have a responsibility of raising a child, and things become very different very quickly for them, and it does have an impact on young girls. We involved a young girl several years ago in a teen partnership group in school, and as part of that program we had a little retreat over at Buckhorn State Park, and we went over there and stayed overnight, and we had just some group sessions and talking about various problems and situations. And during that time, the father of her child called her and wanted her to come back home because the child was sick and she needed to take care of the child. And right there was a situation, it's a case in point, where she wanted to be a young, and I think the little girl was about 16 years old. She wanted to be involved in an activity which she really enjoyed, She wanted to be involved with her classmates. Yet she had another, issue there that was really pressing her, and it was causing her a lot of frustration. And she ended up leaving the group and going back home and taking care of her child. So it does make a big impact, is my point.
Why do you, so you all don't have an RTR or PSI program here?
No, we do not have that as such. Not that I'm aware of now. We do have the school nurse that comes around, and of course the school nurse is only a part-time nurse. In fact, she's here just one day a week. She's available, and of course she's available from, in our school, it's a K through 12 school that serves about 375 students.
I was I guess shocked to find out that in Breathitt County, the Breathitt County school systems, now I guess y'all are not a part of because you're an independent school, but they are not allowed to say, teachers aren't allowed to say the word condom in class. And
right.
I was really interested in, and also that was the same thing in Fayette County as well. So I was wondering why you think that would be true. It seems like the best way to prevent teenage pregnancy is by education and by knowledge. I was wondering why you thought that might be the case.
I'm not aware of any school policy that prohibits us from stating, having those kinds of discussions whenever the time arises. To the best of my knowledge, there is no policy in our school that prohibits us from those discussions, and I think sometimes when you're going back to sex education and when the topic arises, I think if the students have questions about certain kinds of sex issues, that it's healthier to me to bring it up and to discuss it and to talk about those kinds of things rather than simply overlook it and just assume that it's not there.
Okay, in your opinion, what is the best way to prevent teenage pregnancy?
Well, I think probably we're just simply discussing probably the most effective way is for young people to become probably involved first, becoming educated. And you become educated and you learn about some of the impacts, effects of teenage pregnancy through sex education classes. And another way that we can probably cut down on that, it simply goes back to building self-esteem within students, and also a lot of it goes back to the education and the home life of children. If children grow up with the idea that they're nurtured with a lot of love and a lot of affection, and they can see that, and they can have they have an opportunity to develop a high self-esteem and set their goals and to become involved in school activities and to feel some self-worth. I think this in itself, along with sex education, would be some major ways that we could decrease teenage pregnancy. I find personally that students right here in this school even, oftentimes if the ones that are more actively involved in school activities are the ones that simply do not have that problem existing. It may not be the rule all the time, but generally speaking, if they're involved and they're happy with their school activities, that they're less likely to become involved in this.
Would you like to add anything?
Just in kind of recapping some of the things, I think just like to go back and mention some of the ways that we can help as a school, and that I support wholeheartedly sex education classes done in a way that's very tastefully done, and I think parents have to be educated in order. They have to understand what the content is, what they're discussing in class, and have to understand what it is before something like this can be successful. And once again, I think if we can have programs that build self-esteem within young people, this in itself would begin to curb the teenage pregnancy problem. And finally, I think with parents, with their support of their children, teaching them some love, respect, and support. I think all together that would probably help more than any other thing.
Okay. Would it be alright if we used your voice and your everything that we just typed on tape?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. No problems.
Okay. I think that's it.
Okay.
Good job. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
The doctor, anybody that ever seen a seizure knew it.
Who was the zoom in, please. Who was the lady that you just mentioned, the lady that was whispering?
McQuinn, Mrs. McQuinn. I don't know. There's not a lot of information on her. I'd say kind of low character, ill repute. What was she doing there that night with a bunch of men and them drinking? And I'd say she was sent there. You know, get Tom drunk, talk him into killing Doc Rader. They'll hang him, we'll get his property. How simple could that be? So he can't kill Doc Rader, he's not capable, physically capable, just to take care of the problem on her own.
Where were they
at? They were at Smith's Branch, at a house in Smith's Branch, which was close to home.
Do you think that the sheriff, the reason he tried to resign so he couldn't do that, do you think maybe that it had something to do with him ever seeing Tom have a seizure or seeing that? Do you think that he really didn't know, that he knew that he didn't do it or something?
I think he thought Tom had done the other things attributed to him, but not that one thing. I don't think he believed it.
How do you feel about the other things that he had been accused of? How do you feel about those?
Every human being's different. I may never have met anybody like Tom Smith. But like I say, you know, when there's drinking in the family and personalities change, you know, you have no way of knowing. And I'd say a lot of what he confessed to he did. I'd say it's highly likely. He couldn't have got the reputation he got by doing nothing. I mean, he wasn't a Sunday school teacher. I'm just saying he didn't kill Doc Rader. I'd stake my life on that. And they all knew it. And it was party time. I mean, they came from everywhere. Trains and boats and horseback. They say it's almost like a revival.
At the actual hanging. Tell us about that. Tell us what you've heard about that. Zoom out. Can you
That it
one
was
second? 1 second, please. Tilt down a little bit more and zoom in just a little bit. Up. Tilt up. Good job. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I've heard the actual hanging was party time. Almost like a revival. And the bad Tom Smith had written songs. He would come to the window of the jail cell and sing some of his songs. Up until John Y. Brown wouldn't pardon him. And right at the end he wouldn't sing for him. But it's almost like they didn't believe it was going to happen. And then when it did, they said that you could hear the hair grow on their heads. It got so quiet. And that snap of the neck that you could hear it over the crowd. It fell 5 feet. Of course, you know, he was baptized and all before the... It's hard to know how serious Bad Tom Smith was, actually. I mean, nothing seems to actually... He'd be a different character than anybody we've ever met. Because what people in real life tell you, you know, the old ladies and the old men that I talk to, it don't sound anything like what you read in these books. So I'm assuming that the drinking, kind of maybe a little schizophrenia involved there with the drinking. Because I really don't know any other Smiths that would hurt you.
I just wondered how much, and I assume that it happens, is that any time that something, this is kind of a historical event, and it's been 100 years now, how much this story has changed. And in reality, it would appear to me that it would get worse, and each time a generation went by, he killed 10 and 1, and next is 20 and 30, and it just, I just wondered how much of that is all fake.
When I was a little girl, about, I guess, 10, I heard that he killed 7 men. Went into a house and killed 7 men one morning before breakfast. Went back home, proceeded to eat breakfast. As if it never happened. I've never heard of that since then. I don't think that happened. Totally blown out of proportion. And my mom was a Smith, and her mom was a Smith, and so, I got more from old folks around the hills and hollers than I did from my own kinfolks.
Did your mom or your parents or anybody attend the hanging?
No, my mom and dad were gentle people. They wouldn't have. They wouldn't have gone to watch something like that, and that was her second cousin? No, they wouldn't have gone to watch it.
Zoom in, please. Why do you think this story, why is it that it's still being repeated? It's 100 years now.
Same as Captain Bill Strong. It's interesting stuff. It's got everything. It's got murder, drinking, women. I'd say maybe there's probably a stagecoach robbery in there if you talk to enough people. It's got all the makings of a good movie. I'm surprised nobody ever made one.
Why have you? I mean, you put a lot of effort into studying this. Why did you choose this topic, or why do you choose to study?
I didn't. This is just stuff I picked up along the way studying genealogy in the last, since about 1978. I've been into genealogy because nobody else in the family was, and when that happens, normally one will pick up and gather everything they can. I was a change of life baby, and my mom died when I was 38. So, you know, I knew that if somebody didn't get all the information they could when they were gone, it was gone. So I was the baby one at home, so I got all the information. And it just kept stacking up, and I have boxes of letters from people in Ohio and Indiana and libraries, and I keep finding boxes of stuff I didn't even know I had. But I never started out to on one topic. Just the Smiths were my kinfolks. And the Smiths married Smiths, and when they didn't marry Smiths, they married Combses. So it's very likely that Sheriff Brett Combs, my two great-grandmothers were Combses. So it's very likely he was kin to me. And the jailer Sinners, my uncle Frank married Stella Sinners. So the whole scenario, everybody in there is kin to me. So it had to be interesting, but I never set out to study that one thing. But it just seems to keep coming up.
Have you ever, a lot of people we've talked to said that he got up on top of the, when they took him up on the scaffold, that he talked. Do you know what he talked about up there? He talked to the crowd and everything.
At that time, he'd been baptized. So I think he talked about God, and I think it's probably when he gave one of his last songs that he had written. And I know he yelled, "Oh God, save me," just before he fell 5 feet. And kept yelling until, he was gone. I don't like to dwell on that part of it. And of course, so many people thought this is the end of the round pages in the mountains. The bad man has been got. If things are going to get so much better. And that didn't happen either. And the Smiths, they held a grudge for the longest because so many much worse than him they were never punished. They were never caught. Why is that? Catch one, catch them all.
Apparently it's who you know, same as today.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Seth, anything else you think of? What is it? Are we missing anything that you would like to talk about that you haven't, that you feel is important enough to be included?
The only thing is the direct